Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. A couple weeks back I got in the mini Cyborg jack from Jack Wolf Knives, and that started a conversation with my wife about how it's glad he sent over the pink version, as I don't really have pink knives in my collection, but I have pretty much every other color of the rainbow. And my wife thought that might make an interesting video, so I figured why not make an open tag. I'm going to call the open tag R.O.Y.G.B.I.V, which is the acronym I use to remember the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Of course, pink is not an official color of the rainbow, so we'll get this one off to the side. But if you want to participate in this open tag, tag me in the video. I'll compile all of those into a playlist, just like the last open tag I did, so everyone can see the responses in one place. If you don't make videos or don't want to make a video, you can snap a picture, tag me on Instagram, or even email it to me. My email is in the description of the video, and I'll compile those and put them into a community post in a couple days after I get some responses there. And so with that being said, I'm going to go in that order that I named earlier. I tried to mix it up so there's something for everyone. If you like traditionals, if you like moderns, if you like autos, a little bit of something for everyone. So we're going to start it off with the traditional, with the Case Red American Workman Seahorse Whittler. This one has these beautiful red synthetic covers with the American flag Case script shield. I think that looks really nice together, and that's one of my favorite shields that Case does. It has 3 blades. I'm only going to open our main blade, which is our Wharncliffe, my favorite blade style, and really great on this knife. Now, this is the only knife in the video that does not have its own standalone video yet, and that's because I picked this up to try my hand at whittling, and I haven't done that yet. So I'm waiting to make a video until I've used this for its intended purposes, tried out some whittling. I'll maybe even show off some of what I whittle with it, but that will be coming in the future. Just have been procrastinating. I have everything I need for it. But that's it for this one. Let's move on to the orange. I'm going to try and keep it somewhat brief because I know these videos tend to be somewhat long-winded when I do them, and so I want to keep it under 8 or 9 minutes or so. So for our orange knife, this one was tough because I probably have more orange knives than any other color in this category. I went with the Demco AD 20.5, and the reason I chose this one is I'm always looking for an excuse to pull this out of the drawer. It's such a fun fidgety knife with that shark lock that I just enjoy any reason I have to handle this knife. Has those bright orange scales, which work perfectly for this video, and the black coated shark's foot style blade here. Really glad this one came out because this is a production version of an otherwise custom knife that's typically a lot more expensive, but these are fairly budget friendly, being AUS 10A and made in Taiwan. So from there we go on to our yellow category, and yellow is tough for a different reason. Most of my yellow knives are Ultem, they're yellow Delrin, these duller color yellows, which I enjoy, but for this video I wanted stuff that was bright, that really popped. I think it fits the theme of the video better, and that limited my choices, but ultimately I landed on the CRKT Provoke. And this is actually my most viewed short of all time, really popular knife, and particularly this version with the karambit. I've done the Provoke EDC, which has a drop point style blade. That one was not as popular. I think this is such a wild knife design that people just like the less kind of practical, that karambit style blade that maybe they don't have so much of in their collection, but really enjoy this knife. The deployment method, I think they call it like kinematic morphing karambit technology or something like that. Definitely patented by CRKT. Plenty of companies have copied it, but this is the original and very fun to deploy. The lock isn't that great. You do need to kind of use 2 hands to disengage it, but that deployment is very rapid, takes very little pressure on the back of the blade here, and it just comes flying out of there. So another one that I always just enjoy any excuse to pull this one out of the drawer. So from there, we're going to go back to the traditional world with our green knife. For the green knife, I went with the Duke. This particular version is a Knives of France exclusive with the Cerakoted handles, and you can't see the spring on this one because it's covered by that folded piece of steel, but this has the ultra minimalistic construction, and so I think it's only 5 or 6 parts. We have our blade, our handle, 2 pins, and the shackle on the back, plus a spring. So I think that was 6 parts total, and so very minimalistic. You can still see the Duke artwork on there, which is a lot of fun. Hopefully that's showing through on camera. And a unique blade steel. I forget the blend on here, but you can see where those 2 steels separate and makes a very unique pattern for this one. Also an extremely strong spring on here, so no worries about this closing up on you. And that really hasn't loosened up at all, which is something I worried about because of the simple and minimalistic construction. but that's held up. And I chose this one because that shade of green is stellar. So really love that shade. I didn't want to go with kind of like that earthy green. I wanted something super bright. Now from there, wanted to get an automatic in there. Had a couple choices for blue, and ultimately I went with the ProTech Rent. This one is a California compliant version, and the reason I went with this is although I live in California, I own all sorts of automatics out the fronts, out the sides of varying lengths. But I've been getting a lot of comments about California compliant blades or LA County compliant blades recently, so I figured I'd throw in a California compliant version. This is 20 CV on the steel textured aluminum with the blue, kind of a classic rent. I've been on the market actually for a new rent, but haven't seen the perfect configuration. The rent and the Malibu seem to get the most love from ProTech in terms of show exclusives, so I'm sure I'll find one that I like soon. But these aren't super expensive. They're California compliant, which means they're going to be compliant pretty much anywhere that autos are legal in the US, even if they have a shorter blade restriction. I think California is probably one of the shortest. There's probably some states that don't allow any autos at all, so this wouldn't fit there. But I think most states this will be legal. And from there, the last two categories, indigo and violet, were the hardest only because I didn't know the difference between them. I knew they were both shades of purple. I didn't know which one was darker or which was brighter. And so what I did was I Googled indigo versus violet, and I tried to match knives up to the first Google result. And so what that ended up with was the Spyderco Yojimbo, a factory second that I got during their recent second sale. Has the purple G10 and that crazy Wharncliffe blade on here as well. Beautiful, nice, has their, I believe they call it their compression lock. Is that right? Maybe not. Either way, beautiful knife, has the black coated blade, the purple G10 handles, and we do have our second mark somewhere around here. Maybe. This was the second, wasn't it? It definitely was the second. Oh, there we are. Our second mark right here, barely noticeable, so it's such a minor thing. I don't know what caused this one to be a second. The action's a little bit tight on it, but I couldn't imagine that's what it was. But really cool knife. Glad this one came in the second sale. And that is our indigo. So our violet, I went with the Boker USB. And so this most closely matched the shade of violet that popped up on Google. I actually thought it was the other way around. I would have thought this would have been the indigo and the other would be the violet, or even like a lighter purple, which turns out is probably lilac. And so definitely had a hard time choosing these, but this is another California compliant auto. This one and out the front from Boker and Cobra Tech. Great little knife. I stopped carrying this one as much because the spring seems to be going out on me. It's doing pretty well here, but every once in a while when I deploy this, it just kind of falls off its track more often than you would expect, and so don't really carry this one anymore, but used to find its way into a lot of different pouches. It was a fun one, never my primary knife, but kind of a cool one. It's also a nice budget out the front. It performed pretty well when I first got it, so if you want to check out an OTF, this might be kind of a cool one to check out. But that rounds out my 7 R.O.Y.G.B.I.V knives. Would love to see yours, so again, be sure to tag me or email me, whatever the case may be. But let me know what you think of my choices down in the comments. Which is your favorite? What are your favorites in the kind of bright colored knife categories? I know I have a ton of titanium and earth tone G10s as well on my Cartas and stuff like that, but sometimes it's fun to check out these brighter knives, and I try, and when knives come in these colors, pick them up in the brighter colors rather than the standard colors to kind of encourage companies to do more of that by voting with my sale. And so I always enjoy this type of stuff. But thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, joining the channel as a member. They all help the channel out a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.